Acharanta Savanicho
Guru Sudhira Saurida
Guru Sudhira Saurida
Srinarati Vacha
Srinaravacha
Brahmachari Guru Kule
Brahmachari Guru Kule
Vasantanto Guru Hidam
Vasantanto Guru Hidam
Acharanta Savanicho
Acharanta Savanicho
Guru Sudhira Saurida
Guru Sudhira Saurida.
So here, Narad Muni is explaining Brahmachari Gurukula Vasan. The first thing for a brahmachari is, Vasan means to reside, is that he should reside in the kula, or the house of the Guru. So this is the first thing for a brahmachari. He lives in the brahmachari ashram. In the ISKCON context, the brahmachari ashram is the house of Srila Prabhupada, and all the brahmacharis are staying in that house, so to speak. This is Prabhupada's house, and all the brahmacharis are staying here together. And what are the endeavors they are engaged in? Danto, they are engaged in trying to control their senses. This is the job of a brahmachari. He has to try to control his senses. Guru Hitam, and whatever he does only for the sake of the spiritual master, not for any personal ambition or any separate goal. Whatever the spiritual master wants, that's what he also wants, and that's what he does. His only existence is for the sake of pleasing the spiritual masters and Krishna. And as far as his acharan, his behavior, how is his behavior? Acharan dasavan nicho. Das, we are all familiar with the word dasa. What means like? Prabhupada translates the word das here to mean slave. Like a slave. So brahmachari behaves like a slave. And nichaha is a very humble way. His dealings are very humble. He is never arrogant. Of course, when we talk of slave here, we're not talking in the exploitative connotation that slavery was understood in recent centuries and in human history. Not that kind of slavery. History has told us examples of exploitative slavery where the slave was exploited against his wishes, made to do labor against his wishes, and he would be given some money or some maintenance or something like that in return. And the person who was exploiting was driven by selfish desire, by greed, and didn't have qualities like mercy and so on. He wasn't concerned about the welfare of the person who was doing service for him. So it's not that kind of slavery. But the kind of slavery that's on the spiritual platform that Narad Muni is talking about here is when a devotee voluntarily becomes a slave. In human history, mundane history, we have found that people are forcibly made slaves. But here, the disciple voluntarily accepts the discipline of the spiritual master. That's why it's called a disciple. A disciple is one who follows the discipline. A discipline means doing do's and don'ts. Where you voluntarily accept restrictions upon yourself, although you had every option to not do so. But you still voluntarily accept these restrictions and you act in a very humble way. And the gurus, the spiritual masters, their mood is unlike the mood of those who made slaves in recent times. For example, in America 200 years ago, 300 years ago. The pure devotees who give shelter to disciples will do so for the disciples' benefit. They will have the welfare of the disciple at heart. It is not that they seek to increase the number of those serving them, but they want to actually benefit the people at large. So that is the fundamental difference. So this is another important aspect of a brahmachari's conduct, that he must be very humble in behavior and must be willing to do anything and everything. In other words, there is no scope for ego in brahmachari life. The moment ego and self-interest comes in the picture, there will be conflict. So brahmachari's life should be very simple, and it should be free of the trappings of false ego. Then loving exchanges are very easy to manifest and develop. Guru Sudridha Sahuridaha. And he should towards the Guru have a feeling of friendship. Friendship in the sense of being a very favorable, positive service attitude. He must be very favorably inclined towards his Guru. That should be the mentality of the disciple. So shall we read the full translation? Narad Muni said, a student should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. With a great vow, the brahmachari should live at the Gurukula only for the benefit of the Guru. Can we go back to the verse? So if a brahmachari is as Narad Muni describes, it will be so easy to have loving exchanges. So loving exchanges takes place when one is conscious of Krishna, when one is Krishna conscious, as we saw earlier in the case of the Prachetas, and when there is an attitude of service to one's superiors and to each other, where there is humility and an attitude of surrender or willing to do anything and everything for the pleasure of the Guru, and a serious, sincere endeavor to control the senses. How can there be love when the senses are uncontrolled? Uncontrolled senses means quarrel. In an atmosphere where the senses are not controlled, love cannot exist. So this is the kind of background that's required in order for a brahmachari ashram to be ideal. If we have these qualities, or if we try to seriously cultivate these qualities, automatically the atmosphere of brahmachari ashram will get completely transformed. So I'll just briefly summarize what I have said so far. That this material world, number one, is designed in such a way that despite our best efforts, there will always be occasion for disagreement or some form of anxiety in relationships. Number two, loving exchanges amongst people can take place best, really speaking, only on the spiritual platform, not on the bodily platform. In other words, on the platform of Krishna consciousness. Number three, that when there is such a cooperative and friendly spirit amongst brahmacharis who are like brothers living with each other, that is what really pleases Krishna the most.